on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. Today on the program, we will hear from the founder of Detroit Repair Cafe about an upcoming event to help you construct a Halloween costume and so many other broken things you may have. As well, it's Friday, which means the Detroit Documenters are here to talk all things interesting that are happening within the Detroit public meetings. Really looking forward to that conversation later on in the show. However, starting us out, what does it mean to live authentically? Maybe you've never had to ask that question before, or maybe it's just a personal question that you ask yourself about self-reflection and self-expression. Brittany Rogers is a poet, educator, and lifelong Detroiter. She's also a 2023 Gilda Fellow and is set to release her book, Good Dress, on October 15th. It's a collection of poems and short stories about community, womanhood, and the audacity of Black Detroiters. Joining us now to talk more about Good Dress is the author, Brittany Rogers. Brittany, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I always ask Detroiters, what part of Detroit are you from?
I'm from the east side of Detroit, 48205.
We got an East Sider. So I'm super excited to have a conversation with you. So the title, Good Dress. I instantly thought about a woman having a good dress or her favorite dress that she wears to different gatherings, whether it's a wedding or a funeral or a birthday party. It's the good dress. What were your thoughts when naming the book Good Dress?
I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about the play of adornment as like something that comes with material perception. So the perception of having like a dress that makes you look wealthy or a dress that makes you look rich. So who gets to wear the good dress?
Yeah. And thinking about the good dress and who gets to wear it, you dive into classism and class in different ways throughout the book. Can you talk about how you break down class and use clothes and garments and adornments to break that down?
Absolutely. I think that as a person who grew up, well below what you consider a working class or middle class, I'm very conscious of what class looks like and how people will, in their perceptions, class you based on what you're wearing, whether or not you have like the most designer clothes or the latest name brands. And then just as a Detroiter, I feel like we get a lot of flack for being very heavily adorned, even though the city has like some of the poverty issues that it has. Yeah. So I think it was important for me to think about that in the collection, about who gets to adorn themselves with what, depending on how much money they do or do not have.
Which is such an interesting perspective to have, especially when you live in a city, you're from the city, and you understand that, we have high rates of poverty, but we also dress really well, and our hair is done really well, and we keep ourselves up really well. So there's something to that. And I asked the question of Black audacity. How do you tie that into that?
To me, Black audacity is what keeps us alive. It's what helps us survive. It's what makes us bold enough to make the choices that we make, not just aesthetically, but, all the grit that people are always talking about Detroiters having. I think that's audacity. I think the nerve to say, I have to survive on a day-to-day and I'm going to do that. That's what Black audacity is to me.
And how does that manifest, Black audacity, when you see it out in public spaces and places? You just talked about just the audacity to thrive and to just be. So, how does it manifest itself? What do you see in Detroiters to have that Black audacity?
So much nerve. Even just to stay here, I think, with all of the perceptions, with like increasing gentrification, with the way that people talk about crime or talk about like a lack of opportunities, I think it takes a lot of boldness to say, no, this is my city, this is what we built, and I'm going to stay and preserve what we built is priceless to me.
And, just speaking of that, just last night, former President Donald Trump complained about the national debt during his speech while he was at the Detroit Economic Club. But he also talked about Detroit in a way that it's been seen in the past. It's not a way that, current people who live here or even live in Metro Detroit view Detroit, especially if you've been and visited the city within the last 3 years. You see so many different things that are happening. So when you hear that and you hear about that perspective and those ideals and you talk about Black audacity, how do we continue to represent for the city of Detroit with that Black audacity, especially when we hear the things that we continue to hear? Why do you think that Detroiters are continuing with that attitude?
Because I think that I think the Detroiters are resilient in a way that a lot of places and people are not, just because of our lived history. I think that it is the fact that most of us have elders who migrated here and staked claims here.
Yeah.
And I also think that the perception nationally is very anti-Black. I think that they only talk about Detroit the way they talk about it because we're such a majority Black city. And I think that that culture is worth preserving, no matter, how upset it makes people outside the city.
Exactly. If you're just tuning in, we're chatting with Brittany Rogers. Rogers is a poet, educator, and award-winning author. We're chatting about her new collection of poems. It's called Good Dress, which will be released October 15th. So, Brittany, how does Black Detroit differ from Black and brown people who grew up in whiter spaces? So for me, do you believe Black Detroiters have a different perspective surrounding what it means to be Black in the first place because we come from this majority Black space?
Absolutely. I think that there is a way in which, I know for me, I went to Eastern for college, and people talked about how diverse it was. And for me, it was such a culture shock because it was the first time I had teachers, who were majority white, or where I was in classrooms or I was one of few Black kids. Like, that never happened to me growing up. I went to DPS schools. My classmates were Black. The majority of my teachers were Black. All of my neighbors were Black. And I think that there are a lot of ways that I didn't feel some of those outside pressures of conforming to white ideals because I wasn't around people who really embodied those white ideals.
And that was a conversation we actually had here at the station. We were just talking about the book and some of the themes of the book. And that was one of the things that stood out to me was the idea of self-reflection, how we express ourselves, especially when you grow up in a majority Black space. Like you said, I didn't go to a school that I wasn't the majority until college, until Michigan State. And then that's when I kind of felt, oh, okay, this is different. So, when we talk about that and we explore those different things, I think about the book, of course, once again. Which one of those stories from your book, which poem stands out to you that really, really exemplifies some of those points that you're hitting with Black audacity in Detroit?
Doing Too Much.
Okay.
The poem about the Ice Cam series, I think, is one that immediately comes to mind.
Yeah. And if you can you go a little bit into it for the audience?
Absolutely. Doing Too Much is the first poem I wrote in a series of odes to the Ice Cam, which is featured at the Pistons games where Detroiters flash their jewelry when the camera pans in their direction. Yeah. And I first encountered it actually online, not at the game. And people were talking about it like it was the worst thing they had ever seen. And it was all of these people from outside of the city. And they're like, oh, my God, this is just reckless. And this is flashy and it's gaudy. And for me, I'm like, oh, the Black Detroiters, we love extravagance. We love, adornment. So that juxtaposition was something that really stood out for me. And that's what made me write that series.
Yeah, which is one of my favorites as well. I read through it and I just thought, that is such a Detroit thing too, flash your diamonds, whatever it may be. And it's just a form of self-expression. I always say that it's not fashion, it's art. So it's just a way of expressing yourself. So
exactly.
Brittany, you are also a part of Women House Detroit. So not only are you about to release this collection of books, Good Dress, October 15th, you also have an exhibit at Women House Detroit. You are a part of the new cohort of young women there. And I spoke with them earlier this week, Asia Hamilton, as well. We had Kat Washington on, and we also had Michaela on as well, Ayers, and they all gushed about you. So talk a little bit about your involvement with Women House Detroit.
That's so sweet. I was lucky enough to be a part of the cohort this year, and I've loved every moment of it. We've built a lot together. We dreamed together, and I'm just really proud of the cohort for, I remember at our first meeting, us setting our visions for what we wanted our spaces to look like, and everybody just exceeded what we thought we could do.
Yes. And, communal spaces, especially for Black and brown women, women in general, having communal spaces where we can come together and just really talk and express ourselves in open ways. In what way did Women House Detroit help you see those bonds and foster those bonds with the women within your field?
Oh, it was amazing. Like, something that we realized throughout the house is that the house as a whole is really cohesive because so many of us have so many shared experiences, or like, especially with our matrilineage or the things that were going on in our homes, the way even that our homes looked. So you might see like similar colors going throughout the house or a similar sort of vibe. And it just reminded me of how very intertwined our experiences are, and so how necessary it is for us to have that communal connection.
Yeah, yes. And that's one of the biggest things that I took away from the Women House Detroit conversation with its co-founder, Asia Hamilton, was just that communal space and that coming together that women need in general in today's society. But just going back to Good Dress comes out October 15th. You know, as people are picking through it and going through it and reading out and highlighting their favorite parts, what do you want people to take away from this book?
I want people to think about spaces that they could be more audacious, that they could become more themselves. And my hope is just that they lean into that.
Yeah. Brittany Rogers is a Detroiter, poet, and educator. She is the editor-in-chief of Muzzle Magazine and co-host of VS Podcast. Saturday, October 19th at Vanguard Community Development in Detroit, you will see an artist talk and the first opening night for the book release, which is happening October 15th. That book is called Good Dress. Brittany Rogers is the author. Brittany, thank you so much for joining us on The Metro.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's The Metro on 101.9 WDET-FM. And, you know, if you were lucky last night, you might have caught a glimpse of the Northern Lights. They were on display across southeast Michigan last night. I did not get to see them, but a few folks I know did. They might be visible again tonight, so we still have a chance, guys, but only if the cloudy skies clear up long enough to see them. So, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed on that one. Otherwise, today and Saturday, mostly sunny, temperatures in the low 70s. And Sunday, there is a chance of rain. It's going to be about 65 degrees. Let's bring on the sweater weather. Former President Donald Trump complained about the national debt during his speech to the Detroit Economic Club. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget notes that Trump added $8 trillion to the debt when he was in office. And, you know, a little bit of not so great news. The Detroit Tigers, they did lose to the Guardians 5-4 in Game 4 of the American League Division Series at Comerica Park. It's tied at 2 games apiece now, and the winner of tomorrow's 5th game in Cleveland advances to the AL Championship Series against the New York Yankees. I will say it again, if they make it to the World Series, I will get that old English D tattoo. It's going to happen. Coming up, we'll discuss the Mexican-Irish Festival happening in Detroit this Sunday. You all stay right there. It's The Metro on 101.9 WDET-FM. I'm Tia Graham. Now, this conversation up next, I'm really excited about because much of Detroit's history, like that of America, it is marked by segregation. Oftentimes, that meant people of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds coexisted as neighbors. And that's true for Detroit's Black Bottom, which was home to Black and Jewish people. And Detroit's Corktown neighborhood has historically been home to Irish, Mexican, Maltese, and Black residents. Some of those groups fuse more than others. There's a long history of Irish and Mexican people blending together in North America and in Detroit specifically. And this Sunday, from noon to 5 p.m., there will be a celebration of Irish and Mexican culture, including food, dance, and music in Mexican Town. To discuss that event now, how it started, and the history of the cultural fusion of Myrish people, we have Maria Elena Rodriguez, former president of the Mexican Town Community Development Corporation, which hosts the festival. Maria helped establish the first one in 2000. Maria, welcome to The Metro.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. So the first festival began in 2000. That was the first one. That was 24 years ago.
Unbelievable.
24 years ago.
Yeah.
What spurred you to create that event?
Well, we were hosting a Sunday Mercado market every Sunday throughout the summer, and it was very successful. But I felt like we needed something that would just spark some fun, just something carefree. And I thought, you know what? Our neighbors are right next door to us here at Corktown, the Irish community, and we've always had a good relationship, and we should celebrate it. So that's what we did.
Such a Detroit thing.
Yeah.
Such a Detroit thing to come together. So it's been going on for 19 years. I wanted to ask no?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
It went on for 5 years.
Okay.
And then we took a 19-year hiatus.
So you took a 19-year hiatus. Okay.
Yes.
So you've been gone. So you began 2000, you did 2000 and 2005 back to back to back.
Yes.
And then you took a 19-year break. And this is the first time we're seeing it again in 19 years.
That is correct.
So why bring it back? Yeah, why'd you bring it back?
Because we had so many people asking us about that they had a good time at the Irish Mexican Fiesta. Now we're calling it the Mexican Irish Fiesta. And they'd love to see it come back. And Martina and Christina Guzman, and they approached me and said, you know what? And Angela Perez, they approached me and asked me, would I be interested in assisting them with the ideas of what I did, and they implemented everything and added much, much more. I mean, they brought it up to date for 2024.
Yes, and when we say bringing it up to date to 2024, what are some of those differences that you're seeing, as well as some of the similarity and some of the things that they held on to?
Well, the energy is there, and a lot of the traditions will remain. For instance, the kickoff will have a blessing of the elders at 12 noon. It runs from 12 to 5. And we will be honoring the late Bishop Thomas John Gumbleton and Monsignor Clement Kern, who was, you can call him practically, not officially, the patron saint of Southwest Detroit.
Yeah.
He was an amazing man. So we're going to kick off with that. That's part of the tradition. But aside from that, we're going to have a lot of other fun things. We're going to have a tequila and a whiskey tasting event across the street at Donovan's Pub.
Yeah.
And we're going to have bingo, which we know as Loteria, the Mexican bingo, but the images in there will be Irish and Mexican.
Yeah.
So we're bringing that together, and we're going to be offering some really great gifts to the winners of that bingo that takes place from 2 to 4. So and what is traditional from the original fiestas is that we'll alternate between the Irish dancing, the step dancing, and the Mexican folkloric. And we have some great dancers, the Shannon Irish Dance Group. We have Moyo Coyatzi, Itzel, that's a ballet folklorico, which will be performing. And the Joyas de Mexico that are from Oakland County, they're coming down. Elegant dance group. Not to say that none of them are, right? But I have to be clear about that. But they're bringing another flavor to this, and we have. Should I continue with the rundown?
Oh no, we can definitely come back to the rundown
all right,
folks
let's
know
do that.
exactly what's going on. Because I definitely want to dive into, if we can, we're going to dive into a little bit more of the history, of course, of the area. So if you're just joining us right now, we are speaking with Maria Elena Rodriguez. She's the author of a book about Detroit's Mexican town, and she helped put together the first Mexican Irish Festival, which is back for the first time in 19 years and is being celebrated this Sunday. So historically, Irish folks have lived in Corktown, and Mexican town has been more of the Latino folks. What is the connection between Irish and Mexican folks here in Detroit?
Well, the connection is that we have our values parallel.
Yeah.
We're family oriented. The Irish that settled there in Corktown are primarily Roman Catholic. So are we, the majority of us that live here in Detroit, in Southwest Detroit. And so that is one of the commonalities. We love life. We love, we're fatalists. Ask an Irish person, ask a Mexican person, the answer may be the same. And it's like, things are going well, it's God's will. If things are not, if it's really awful, it's God's will. So that's how we kind of look at life. And we love to party, not to stereotype or generalize.
Yeah.
And we have huge family gatherings. I mean, there's all of that parallels. Not to say it's exclusive to us.
Yeah.
But we embrace it, and so much so that over 50% of the weddings that take place at Most Holy Trinity in Corktown are Myrish,
Wow.
which is Mexican Irish.
Which is just once again, when I saw the word Myrish, I thought to myself, is that what I think it is? It is exactly what I thought it was. And I think about just the beautiful blend of different cultures that we are able to live around here in Detroit and Southwest Detroit, Metro Detroit, where we all get to just kind of see these beautiful cultures popping up together. So the connection that we see with Irish and Mexican people, of course, is proximity, but it's evolved to so much more.
So much more.
So, if you can't get into that communal aspect of it as well, but then the history there, because it goes further back than Detroit. We're going back to Mexico. We're going back to different spaces. We're going back in time, 1840s.
Yes.
A connection there.
With the San Patricios.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So the Mexican-American War, there was a U.S. Army troop down in Texas that their officers were British, and the officers were Protestant, and the soldiers were Roman Catholic, and they were being mistreated by the officers so the last straw that was broken was when they were given orders to burn down all the Catholic churches in Mexico as they were going in to fight. And they deserted the U.S. Army and went over to the Mexican side and defended the Mexican army.
Wow. And of course, I know they took a lot of flack for that. I mean, I know a lot of them lost their lives because of that. Yeah,
they did they were considered obviously deserters.
Yeah.
And they were hunted down. It took a long time for many of them to be found. They were hunted down and executed. They are considered national heroes in Mexico, and there's a huge statue in Mexico City to honor the San Patricio Battalion.
Which is just, once again, history that directly impacts those who live in the city of Detroit that, not a lot of us know and understand.
Right.
So when we talk about these histories, especially the one you just told us, and then there's the history of just preservation and just preserving history. What is your role in that? Where do you see your role in that?
Well, I think it's important. I know one of my sons reminds me that I have a real hard time with change, and he's right. And I am a historian, so I guess that has something to do with it. But I have to accept that. However, it's important to not forget. Not forget. For instance, Corktown is going through this gentrification. Yeah. So is Southwest Detroit.
Yeah.
So is most of Detroit, right?
Yes.
But don't forget who was there before you arrived, and respect and honor the history. Because you are, whether you know it or not, you're standing on the shoulders of people who went through a lot of events, ups and downs, and eventually either they passed away in their home, in their home or in their neighborhood, but honor that. Mm-hmm. And so I have real strong feelings about that.
Yeah, and that is. We talked a little bit, but that's one of the reasons why we have these conversations on the Metro, because we're talking about the city of Detroit, Southwest Detroit, all of Detroit, because all of Detroit, like I said, is such a cultural mix and blend of people, and all of the histories and rich cultures need to be preserved and talked about and have a voice and be represented. So when we talk about this is the first time in 19 years we have the Mexican Irish Festival coming to Southwest Detroit. Once again, get into the importance and significance of bringing it back, especially for this new generation of people.
Well, I think that most importantly at this point in time, we need to share our experiences and the commonality that we have, because everyone's living there, in silos. They're living, they give you this funny look.
Yeah.
That I never experienced growing up. I grew up, it was kind of like the United Nations in Southwest Detroit. And you just never thought twice about who was from where or what color their skin was or their accent or anything. I mean, yeah, nothing was perfect, but it was a kinder time.
Yeah.
And now it's like we need to break all of that down. Because let's face it, some of our kids or grandkids, if you're older, are intermarrying.
Yeah.
We're in the United States of America.
Yeah.
This is, a land of differences and commonalities. And who you love is who you love, and you embrace that. And you embrace the cultures. You embrace all of it. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I think it's timely that we have something like this. And this is just one little sliver of all the mixed cultures. out there that are intermarrying, that should be celebrating that, and probably are. We just don't talk about it.
Exactly. And that's exactly why we have conversations like that, so like this one, so we can continue to just highlight and showcase all of the beautiful mixing and blending that we see happening in our world. I mean, like, once again, I always talk about how fortunate I am to grow up where I grew up, because I grew up around so many different people and so many different cultures and so many different backgrounds, and I've been just lucky to be immersed with all that. So
I agree with you.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Maria.
No, I was going to say, I was born on the east side. First place I laid my head was in a crib on Shane and Ferry. And then my parents, we moved down to Delray, which it was like, oh my God, it's industrial. Yeah, it was industrial, but I wouldn't have changed my childhood for anything in the world. I grew up with in a Hungarian and a Polish community, and we had Southern blacks, and we had our gypsies and Armenians, everybody there. And to this day, there's a very close bond amongst us. And it's a great place. It's a great place. Detroit is a great place.
It really is. That's exactly where I'm going to leave the conversation. Maria Elena Rodriguez is the former president of the Mexican Town Community Development Corporation, which hosts the festival. Maria helped establish the first festival in 2000. And just to give a little more information about it, is this Sunday from noon to 5 p.m. It is happening in Mexican Town. Experience Mexican culture, Irish culture, food, dance, music, so many more things that are going to be happening.
Yeah, it'll be at the Mexican Town Mercado on 21st and Bagley. And please bring your dancing shoes, bring the kids. We have several activities. The food is phenomenal. You will not find any of this food at the restaurants. This is truly authentic Oaxacan food. Café Alvarez will have café con leche, café de olla, Irish coffee, you name it. We're going to have corned beef empanadas, corned beef egg rolls, tamalitos wrapped in banana leaves. I know, you cut me off if you have to. No, I was going to
say, because I'm going to eat all of this food.
It is amazing. I mean, my mouth was watering when I first tasted.
My stomach literally started to growl. Oh my gosh, Maria, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro. I hope that you all have a great weekend.
We will, and we'll have a greater weekend if you all join us.
This is the Metro on 101.9 WDET-FM. Coming up, we'll discuss the Detroit Repair Cafe and what they're doing for people to help improve their Halloween season. Stay right there. Is the Metro on 101.9 WDET-FM. I am Tia Graham. Now, do you ever wonder why it's so hard to fix household objects? Coffee makers, fans, blenders. I need my coffee maker fixed right now. Well, it might be due to planned obsolescence. What's that? The products are designed to break, and the manufacturers are banking on the fact that you'll probably just go buy a new one. The Detroit Repair Cafe is a band of crafty and creative people fighting to keep your stuff out of the trash. And this Sunday, at the Halloween Repair Cafe, they'll even help you make your Halloween costume. To talk about the Detroit Repair Cafe, we're joined by its founder, Diana Graham. Hello, Diana.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And what are people going to see when they walk into the Repair Cafe?
They're going to see our sign-in tables. So we have a sign-in table. You can get situated, and then our sign-in people will bring you to the correct table. So depending on what you bring, we have different stations for electronics, sewing, that sort of thing.
That is so cool. Literally, the little lid of my coffee maker is like hanging, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do, but it still works perfectly fine. So I'll be there. So what kind of things do you fix at the Repair Cafe, like coffee makers?
So yeah, coffee makers is one of that's actually nationwide the largest item that gets brought in. That's the most common, actually internationally too. Vacuums, pants, like we mend clothing, cool. Bikes, sewing machines, lamps. So household appliances, electronics. We have a person that will help you with your laptop if you're having software issues, kind of thing. We have people that know how to diagnose cars. So if you just don't know about your car and you don't want to go in blind, they'll look at it first for you and give you a little bit of a basis.
I need so many people right now at Detroit Repair Cafe for like all things of my life. I need like just a little list for my life to go through and get it fixed and repaired at Repair Cafe. So should people bring anything besides their broken items?
Yeah, so we take donations of prepackaged snacks and drinks. We've been very graciously donated those. So that's where the cafe part comes in. We have free snacks and juice and that sort of thing. And basically we ask if you know what's wrong with it to bring that spare part, just so that we make sure we have it on hand and we can complete that repair for you that day.
Yeah. So many different questions coming through my brain right now, but if you are just tuning in, we're chatting with Diana Graham, the founder of the Detroit Repair Cafe, and we're chatting about the crafty people of Detroit Repair Cafe and the things that you can get mended there. So you talked a little bit about coffee makers being the most wanted item, like one of the items that needed to be fixed the most across the country and internationally. It's probably from a lot of us is like banging on it, like, come on now. But so what are some of the other things that you all see across the country that are like really, really high broken rate, I guess?
What in the U.S. it's lamps.
Okay.
And it's because when you have an old lamp, that top part where you screw the bulb into, that actually can burn out too, and you'll have to replace that and replace the wiring or the switch and that sort of thing. So it can be that you've replaced the bulb and it still doesn't work. That's when you bring it in the Repair Cafe.
Yeah. So for yourself, Diana, were you always a crafty person? Did you always see yourself as a hands-on type of person?
Oh, definitely. And a lot of that comes from, I have a dad that's the same way, who we fix everything at our house. So and he's an engineer, I'm an engineer, so that's where that comes from.
Nice. And since you grew up like that, you grew up with, using your hands and having a father who's an engineer, helping you break things down and do different things, and then you fell in love with it, of course. Why do you want to educate and spread that knowledge of repair? When
I first I heard about the Repair Cafe when I was living in Nebraska last year, and they have a Repair Cafe. So I went there, I took notes, and it was just so cool because I want to serve the community so bad. I want to, and this is something that I'm good at. And so as soon as I heard about it, I was like, oh, I already do that for myself. I already have all the materials. I could totally do this for other people.
Yes. And you just hearing you say, I wanted to do something in my community. I wanted to help, but I just, you just found a way. When you found that way, when you walked in and you saw that cafe and you said, you know what, I know what I'm going to do for my community. What was that feeling, finally finding that peace?
Oh, I love it so much. I'm so excited. I tell people all the time, I made my own merch shirt so that people will ask me about it on the street. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I love it so much.
No, I love it. Hey, what's that mean? So the Repair Cafe goes beyond Detroit. It's international. Can you talk about the Repair Cafe online community and some of the resources you can find there?
Definitely. So yeah, there's over 3,000 cafes worldwide. Wow. It started in 2009 in Amsterdam, and it went from there. Their website, repaircafe.org, is where you can find if there's a Repair Cafe near you. They have a map. And also they have a lot of resources on how to start your own cafe, as well as how to repair things. They have thousands and thousands of repair guides, down to the specifics of the brand of coffee maker you're looking at, your phone, your laptop, whatever it may be, and even things simple as replacing a sole on your shoe. Yeah. They cover it all.
Which I recently did myself. Replace the sole of my shoe because I wasn't getting rid of those shoes. Right. I just wasn't going to do it. And I wear those boots all the time. And so, just thinking about some of the things, some of the personal projects and different things that are happening. What are some of those personal project volunteers have been working on at the cafe when they're not helping others?
Yeah, so we've had kind of a slow summer, and I do just think it's because of the summer. So we just started, that's kind of where the Halloween Repair Cafe idea came from, is because we're already kind of working on our own stuff. So I brought in things of my own clothes that need to be mended. That's a common thing for me. I had a bag that was tearing, so I mended the purse. We've had a couple of those. We bring in our purses and we mend our purses. And then we've had other things like a coffee maker or something. We just bring it in and we work on it together. So it just makes it that much easier to get done when you have a team of people surrounding you.
Which, once again, I love this idea because I don't think a lot of folks think about repairing their items. I think they just often go to, well, it's broken now, so I'm just going to toss it. Right. Can we talk about how this is more of a community resource, and it's more about preserving things and less about saving money. It is about saving money, but it's more about keeping things out of landfills.
Yeah.
And, so can we talk about that
was definitely
aspect?
the founder, the person that started Repair Cafe internationally. Her whole thing was that she wanted to reduce waste. She was very much thinking of the environment. And the other major part of that is the teaching aspect, because she didn't want to lose. She doesn't want people to lose those skills, and that's a big part for me too. I'm lucky enough to have a dad that taught me all these things, and now I want to make sure everybody else who didn't have that opportunity has that same opportunity. So it's largely a teaching opportunity, this resource. We have chairs on either side of the table. Our repair volunteers are going to walk you through every step of the process. They're going to tell you what they're doing when they're doing it, why they're doing it, how they're diagnosing the problem, so that hopefully next time it happens, maybe you can repair it, or maybe you can help somebody else.
To all of the YouTube warriors out there, that I'm a YouTube warrior. I'll look at a YouTube video and sometimes I'm watching it and I'm like, I can't do this alone. I might need a little extra help. And that's when you all really do come in for that extra level of support and community. So how are people who bring in items involved with the repair? You talked a little bit about the repair process sitting across from the person who's helping you out. Where do you get the volunteers from?
So I posted this on Facebook and Instagram when I started. I started our cafe in March. We have now gathered 60 volunteers. Just from a Google form on our social media pages, from me reaching out to friends. Because again, I went to engineering school, so I know some handy people. And I also know some very crafty people. And so we kind of cover our bases that way. And one of the big parts about the Repair Cafe, again, is that even if you might know how to do it, you might just not have the tools. And we bring all the tools. So that's kind of how we do it.
I just love that there's this community of folks out there who were looking for things to do, looking for ways to help other people in their community. And then here comes the Detroit Repair Cafe, and they found their communal volunteer work, whatever you want to say it, but they found their way to give back in a really, really cool way. So if you can, just talk a little bit about this Sunday. Actually, we're going to see some Halloween repair action.
So we're going to still have our normal repairs. If you have anything that's broken, bring it in. But like I said, we had a light summer, so the Halloween aspect, we're going to bring a little bit more of our sewing supplies and things like that are embellishments. So our fabric paints, our lace, our trim, that sort of thing that don't really include in the normal Repair Cafe. But we're going to bring some extra supplies, and we're going to have all our stuff spread out. So hopefully you can make part of your costume or just hang out, maybe do a craft, that sort of thing with us.
I love it so much. Diana Graham is the founder of the Detroit Repair Cafe. You can just get anything repaired, almost anything repaired, as you just heard. And in this weekend, you can get a spooky repair happening. Detroit Repair Cafe is happening from 11 to 3 p.m. at Art Block, and that is located at 1411 Holden Street. So bring your costumes and learn what else you can get repaired at home. Diana, thank you so much for being here on the Metro.
Thank you so much.
It's the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. Once again, I need a coffee maker fix, and I also need a little hand vac fix. So I will be making my way down to Detroit Repair Cafe to learn how to fix those things. But coming up, we'll discuss all the important things Detroit documenters have learned at public meetings this month around Detroit. Stay right there. It's the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. And of course, it's Friday, and we're once again joined by our friends, the Detroit Documenters. Detroit Documenters cover Detroit public meetings, and in almost 3 weeks, voters are going to decide which elected officials are going to serve the public on a few of the boards and commissions. One of the important races is the Detroit Public Schools Community District Board. 22 people are running for 3 open seats. The Detroit Documenters is teaming up with WDET and Chalkbeat Detroit for a DPSCD candidate forum on October 15th. To preview the forum, we're joined by one of the moderators, WDET's education reporter, Sasha Ryan. Hi, Sasha.
Hey, Tia.
And we're also joined by Detroit Documenters coordinator, Noah Kincaid, to help us unpack some of the recent DPSCD decisions. Hi, Noah.
Hey, Tia.
How's it going?
It's great.
I see Sasha often. So it's like I only see you every once in a while. So it's like, oh, so I see Sasha it's Sasha too. So Noah, 22 candidates running for 3 seats. How are voters going to be able to get to know so many candidates at this event?
Well, we're going to have to break them into a couple different groups. And then the moderators are going to pitch questions to them. If Detroiters who show up to this want to, they can submit questions as well, and we'll have time for that. But we're going to do our best. I think about, do you know, Sasha? I think about half of the 22 have confirmed they'll be there.
Wow.
So we'll see. Hopefully some more come.
Yeah. So Sasha, Detroit Public School students are going to be moderating with you and Chalkbeat reporter Robin Vincent. Why was it important to include these students in these conversations?
We so rarely, we as a society and we as an industry, journalism, we talk to students so rarely. And it's all about them. They are the people who know best what is actually happening in schools, and they're the people who are impacted the most. And so I am kind of obsessed with talking to students. So when we find, articulate, smart students, which is not hard to do, who are passionate and willing to hang out with me, I like to put them to work. And so it was a big part of our focus, making sure that we could have some students who are moderators, but also hopefully some students in the audience who will bring their questions and their experiences to the discussion.
That was going to be one of my breakaway questions to you in particular, because you have been working in education for so long now at WDET. You've been immersed in it. You know how to talk about it in a very, you break it down in a way that we can understand what's going on within the school in education in Michigan. Why is it so important for you in particular to get the perspective of students, especially the students of this generation? They have a lot of ideas that they're presenting. So how are you breaking that down?
I think it's really easy to talk to people in power. You have access to them. They have mechanisms. They expect you to come and talk to them. And so to make sure that we are talking to parents and teachers and students and any other stakeholders is such an important thing and shockingly easy to not do. So that's how I think of it.
You said, it's shockingly easily not to do. So yes. So Sasha, what challenges could new board members face?
Well, so being on the board, it's not... I don't want to make this about, it doesn't seem like fun to me. It's a hard thing to do. These are really challenging situations. It's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of weight. And people are entrusting schools with their most valuable, I don't want to say possessions, but people. These are people that, are valuable to them. And so we, the parents, we show up with a lot of intensity. So there's that, but also there's questions of money and resources and, how different parts of the community are being served and treated. And so people who have not done this role before can expect, if elected, to be a part of a really, really intense environment and relationship with the community. And so hopefully that's what they're hoping to be a part of, because that is the thing.
That's something we're going to get into as well, because that's one of the things that every time we have documentaries on, we hear about the passion of the public. So we're going to get to that. If you're just tuning in, we're chatting with WDET's education reporter, Sasha Ryan, and Detroit Documenters coordinator, Noah Kincaid. And this is to both of you, Noah and Sasha. What are you hoping to learn from the candidates at the forum? We're going to start with you, Noah.
Yeah, I'm interested in their motives for running. I see a lot of people sometimes consider, like, they start their political careers with this is a fairly easy elected position to get elected into. So, are they trying to start a political career? Do they just want to be the center of attention? I feel like sometimes that's also a motive for people to run for office. Or do they actually care about public education? Do they have experience working within a public school system? Do they have a passion for supporting not only the students, but the teachers, the faculty, the staff?
Exactly. Sasha, same thing. What do you want to hear and learn from the candidates at the forum?
I think it's always interesting to hear the big ideas people have and the kind of what they think might be a creative or innovative approach to problem solving. But kind of close to what Noah's saying, just the practical applications of this. How will you get this done? How grounded are you? How connected to the community are you? How serious are you about this role? So I love being able to kind of gauge that.
And Noah, the Detroit Public School Board is trying to change their public comment rules at the meetings. What changes are they trying to make?
Yeah, so we read through this. They just kind of like hit on it. They introduced these changes and didn't really talk about them, and they did it in like the last 2 minutes of the meeting. But we read through them, and the biggest change that we noticed is apparently they're going to get rid of virtual participation at these meetings. So if you wanted to attend these meetings at home, you can watch a live stream, but then you can join a Zoom meeting to give public comment. Every mention of virtual public comments is getting struck from their rules. So it appears that they're going to be eliminating that. And if you do want to give public comment, you're going to have to go in person. They're also making it a little tougher to kind of register for public comments. They're going to have 2 different forms to fill out. One if you are speaking on an agenda item at that meeting. Another if it's some unrelated item. They're going to require you to put your name, the subject you want to talk about, whether you've already check a box, whether you've already tried to resolve this through their administrative and complaint process. Sign your name at the bottom saying you understand all their rules. And if you don't fill everything out, they're not going to call you for public comment. Yeah,
the silence there is just me wondering what is going on with that. I mean, I'm wondering to myself, number one, people will now have to be so well versed in what is happening on that day or that meeting to the point where they have to. So can we talk a little bit about and break that down, what it means for those who will go for public comment now? And is the virtual comment, was that a holdover from the pandemic?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. Sasha, you might know. Did they do virtual before the pandemic?
No.
Yeah, so that is a holdover. But ultimately what they're doing is they're adding more steps. They're making it a little more difficult. The easiest public comment is, hey, raise your hand or just get in line and come give public comment. So anytime you add steps to that process, you are potentially reducing the number of people that are going to be there giving public comment. One thing I did want to mention too, and I was talking about this with Linnell Herndon, who coordinates the program with me, and there's a rule that they've been following for years now, where they only allow an hour for public comment total, and once they hit that 1 hour point, they have to vote to extend it. Otherwise, they just cut it off. And that does not fly with the Open Meetings Act at all. As a matter of fact, the Open Meetings Act specifically forbids that kind of behavior at public meetings. So we're hoping that as they're revising these rules, they might also get rid of that and, be a little more true to the Open Meetings Act.
Oh, well, that just, so interesting. Before, we let you go, Noah, Detroit Public School meetings, Superintendent Nikolai Vitti or another official occasionally responds to public comments. Does this happen often at other meetings documenters cover? And should other public boards make this a practice?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, and we love that they do this. They often sit there and they listen and they take notes. I mean, if nothing else, it's a demonstration that they were listening to the people giving public comments, and we truly appreciate that and would love to see more of that in public meetings.
In 30 seconds or less, Sasha, you've been covering education for a long time now. You've been going to these meetings as well. What is one of the things that we just heard from Noah? What are one of the things that when you hear about the changes that are coming, what are one of the things that you hear, especially about from what do you hear? We have so many passionate folks. So what does that sound like to you?
I think that public comment is kind of the only space most community members have to express their concerns. And so it's important to provide that space. It can be long and it can be intense, but it's important.
Yeah. Thank you so much to WDET's education reporter Sasha Ryan and Documenters coordinator Noah Kincaid for joining us on the Metro.
Thanks, Tia.
Thank you.
Of course. The candidate forum for the Detroit Public Schools Board is taking place on October 15th at the Eastside Community Network from 5:30 to 8 p.m. The event is free. RSVP at WDET.org. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. Have a great weekend.